And welcome back to the Stranded Season 1 recap. And I think the last time we were here, not even I think, the last time we were here, we had that tribal, the bottle episode as I referred to it. We had that tribal and Fallout was all over the place in this episode. So I'm excited to talk more about it. As always, we're joined by Santi and Will. How are y'all doing?
I am good. It has been a nice, relaxing Sunday, and now I'm ready to talk to you guys about this messy ass episode of Stranded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing good. We just got 7 inches of snow here in Jersey. So normally 7 inches is great, but it's a little too much for me. I need, something a little more, easier to handle, but it's fine. We're thriving.
Manageable.
And
We'll
it's funny.
complain about never mind.
But it's funny we mentioned that just the starting at the title of the episode, and so Santi said it. One of my players texted me and it was like, why is it called It's Getting Messy? It is messy. It's there. Like, it's not getting there. We're there already.
It's flashback with the last two episodes. It's been messy for a minute.
Yes. I mean, really all the way back to episode 1, 2, if we really want to go there. But,
The bulk of this episode, like, and we're going to talk from the beginning to the end, but a large chunk of this episode is the strategy talk, and a lot of confessionals kind of mixed in there just to like kill the tension just a little bit. But there are a lot of people that are coming out of this episode pissed off, and because a certain someone didn't go home and people had some choice words with their voting confessionals, it could only get messier moving forward because that person remains in the game. Spoilers for later. But we're going to start with the fallout, the initial fallout of the tribal. Troy's the one that threw his vote on to Ymir. Everyone gets a confessional in this opening section, and it's a lot of, this is how this person, I think this is how they did this. This is what I need to happen. And I don't know. I feel like Nathan, above almost everyone else, got a lot of content in this episode, and I feel like more than anyone else, we got his path from now to whenever he gets voted out or wins in this segment. So who stood out to you, Santi, like in this first segment?
You mentioned Nathan, and I'm just like, Nathan thinks, this is just my opinion, but I feel like Nathan thinks the game's going one way, but I feel like the game is actually going a completely different way, which is interesting. What I love about Survivor is in that moment, in that confessional, that was Nathan's perspective of the game. Mm-hmm. But since we have the larger picture, we're like, actually, no, that's not how this is kind of going. He stood out for me a lot. Ymir is definitely, I think for the first part of the game was definitely in the strategic mindset. But I think now with his name coming up and him almost playing the idol, we've now shifted to emotional, chaotic Ymir. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be interesting to see play out in the next couple of rounds to see how the other players are going to navigate around that, or if they're just going to eliminate that factor from the game.
Will, with how last episode was edited, or not even edited, this is how the round went. Like we just went straight to tribal. Did you feel like I won't say overcompensate, but you feel like, okay, this episode's an hour 20-ish, I believe. Yeah. I want to basically just let everyone have all the confessionals, let everyone have all the screen time now because we didn't get much of that last episode. Or was it just this round was just extra messy, extra whatever, that you felt like you had to do that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. So, for example, I debated, like, the first 20 minutes of the episode is just the fallout. And I thought the fallout was really interesting just because it'd be different if it was like, a 7-1 on Alex who plays the idol, John goes home, big whoop. I probably wouldn't have included all those confessionals. But because everything was crazy, and even the 4 people that voted Alex weren't even all green or all purple. They were all, a mix. So I debated even taking that chunk, whether putting it at the end of like John, but of John's episode, but I wanted it to just end kind of his final words and the final votes, and that's it. But I was like, I thought it was important to get everyone's perspectives because everyone went rogue, everyone started throwing votes. I mean, if you think about it, and I said this in the last recap, John S went home, but it wasn't even a plan. It was two people throwing a random vote that just happened to be John S, and he went home. Amir and John V never talked to throw that. You know what I mean? So like, I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to get everyone's perspectives, and that's also how I edit. I've said this multiple times. I pretty much make these episodes for my 16 players. And if I get 17 views an episode, it's a 16 of them plus me, I've done my job. So yes, I'd rather the episode be longer and make sure everybody has a moment, even if like obviously not everyone is the most important to the vote every single round. I don't really care. I'd rather we have an amazing cast and they're all really good at giving confessionals in their own way. And I want to highlight that.
Yeah, and I think
let me tell you,
everyone is appreciative of that.
The rough cut of this episode, though, was 2 hours long, and I was like, "I'm fucked."
And you gotta save that
finale.
Yeah, you gotta save that.
Two-parter, right there.
Because our wonderful editor Matt, life is lifing. He's doing great things. He, can really commit to any more on the project, which is absolutely fine. I get it. So our beautiful, wonderful player and season 2 host Bex stepped up, and she edited all of the strategy pieces of this episode. It's just not my wheelhouse. I can cut a confessional. I can do, other things, but strategy is not my vibe. And so I went over Bex's house for like 2 hours. I said, here's my computer, girl, have at it. And she locked in, and she goes, there you go. And we went from 2 hours to an hour 20.
So I want to go back to something that Santi said right there about Amir, because Amir is another person that we get a lot of content with in this first 20 minutes. And in my notes, I have Amir's out for blood. And I think that's what you just said something about, like how he was more strategic for most of the game, and then something kind of just went off, and like for good reason. Like he says, like, I had this thing in my stomach saying that something wasn't right. Now the plan still was not to get rid of him. It just so happened that with all the votes going this way or the other, kind of ended up on him. But he had the right idea and saying, "Hey, I got this. I might do." Do you, and I know there are different camps of how to think about the game. I think it is fun to see him in this state now, because he has been so matter of fact, so just straightforward. Yeah, I'm here to do this, and y'all can kind of get out of my way. To now it's like, no, I think I hate all of you, and now I'm stressed out because I don't know what the hell's going on. Does that make him an even more compelling character than he already has been up to this point in the season?
Absolutely. Will knows this. Like, I love watching people spiral in these games. And we're witnessing Amir starting to spiral now. So it makes it more interesting because it's I think, at least, like, when people are in that fight or flight sense within the game, they make crazy irrational decisions, and sometimes it benefits them in the long run, and sometimes it does not. So I'm interested to see like how this is going to play out for Amir.
Yeah, and I mean, so far so good. He didn't catch a vote, and I mean, yeah, he was on the wrong side of the numbers, but spoilers. So we're going to get to the immunity challenge. We're pairing up, and Brooke and Bex basically just say, "Hey, you guys come to us. Like, you pick us to be your partner." Which was like, I won't say it dragged on, but it went longer than it probably should have. Like, people should have just straight up said, yeah, like, you want a partner? Cool, they were kind of just standing around like, oh, I guess I'll go with Bex and you go with, well, I know you said you get 1 minute, and it probably was 1 minute in real time. What were you hoping as, the host and creator? What were you kind of hoping would happen in this situation, saying, hey, pick your partners, go?
Yeah, I mean, it worked out the way we wanted to. And Alex actually summed it up in one of his confessionals really well, which was, we didn't say the challenge. And like, obviously you don't really see in the camera angle, when they walked to the field, there was nothing behind me. So they knew it was a challenge, but there was no like, oh, could we surmise kind of what it's going to be? And so I said, pair up. And like Alex said, he goes, I wasn't sure if it was a pair up and, we're going to work together and both win immunity, or pair up and we will kind of battle against each other. And that's kind of what we wanted. It's like, listen, make a decision and you have to stick with it and live or die by that decision. And that's really what Stranded is all about. I love, and Santi can attest to this, these quick, Stranded is a quick game, not quick of like, oh, you have 5 minutes to strategize, but quick of like, this thing's happening and you need to make a decision now on which way you're going to go. And you don't have 2 hours to think about it. And you gotta go. And that's same thing with that. So we wanted to pair up, and I wanted to see, especially as how messy the game is, especially we knew regardless of what happened in episode 9, John's episode, it was gonna be chaos, right? Even if it was a 7-1, or whatever. Now it's like, oh shit, we're pairing up. All the purples can't stick together. All the greens can't stick together. We have odd numbers. It was always going to be a pairs challenge no matter what, regardless of whatever the numbers were. But it worked out better than we thought, because obviously if it was, 2 greens and 6 purples, it'd been a lot easier, like the divvy up on that.
Yeah.
But also force people to work together who maybe haven't worked together throughout the game, which I think is also interesting.
Yeah, and I think quickly John and Ymir I think they were the first pair to they just kind of let's go, and then that's
they did that. They did the nod. They did the, and that was it.
Santi, what did you think about Brooke and Bex saying, "Hey, you have to come to us right now"? Like we are, because this will not be the last time in the episode that they are. Oh,
I know.
Yeah,
we're gonna get there.
So what did you think about this?
The way I saw this, like, and I put myself in the player's perspective. If it's final 8 and Will says get into pairs, I'm immediately going to go to it's either a double elimination or like something of that sort. So it does not benefit Brooke and Bex to link up. Additionally, if they link up and then they win, it now creates this more narrative of the women are working together. They're going to be unstoppable, blah, 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 whatever the men are using to target those two. So I think it was smart for them to be like, you guys come to us, because it basically forced the other guys to be like, link themselves to Brooke or Bex in the event that it was like a tied destiny type situation. For those that don't watch International Survivor, tied destinies is when 2 people are linked together. So if one gets voted out, the other one goes too. So I think it was smart of them to do that.
I agree. I agree. And I think that obviously it doesn't pay off for them in the challenge. And, after the challenge, we'll kind of talk about something that is brought up during the summit. But I do agree with the way that they handled that. It's like, yeah, come to us. And people did. They sat there and tried to figure it out after a while, but they went to them. So it's an endurance challenge. It's an endurance challenge where, looking at the pairs, I picked John and Ymir, 1 out of racial obligation, and 2 because I felt like they were probably going to win. Just looking at the pairs. But this is another testament to how this episode was edited and how the series has been edited. With the music and the cuts and everything, there is this tension of, will Lupo and Nathan end up pulling this off, because both of them are looking exhausted. And on the other end, we have Ymir on his knees at some point. I think once you guys have to go on 1 foot, he had to stand up, obviously. But John is just very stoic the entire time. He's staring everyone, like he's staring the other pair down. It's like, well, they have to win, right? And in the back of my head, I'm like, this is a nice little trick, because John and Ymir are going to lose, and it's going to, it's subverting expectations. Obviously, John and Ymir win. Santi, I don't know if this happens in season 2. I apologize. How do you feel that you would do in this challenge, and what would your strategy be?
It's hard to take myself to final 8. Let's just pretend it's a different round. I don't think I would do very well. Like, if you guys know me, you know that I'm not a challenge beast. That is not my forte. That is not what I am good at when I play Survivor. I am the strategist. I am the chaos creator. So I wouldn't have fared well at all. I probably would have went out 2nd or 3rd.
Okay. Do you feel like there would be a certain strategy like this? If, let's say, you knew what the challenge was and you were able to look at everyone else left in the game, is there a certain person that you would try to match yourself up with? Like, is it a height thing? Is it a?
I mean, I'm gonna pick favorites and pick Bex. Like, I'm gonna just go all in on Bex.
Okay. Will, for this, because you did say this was all a part of this to see how messy you could potentially get. With the pairs that we do get, did you have in the back of your head, oh, the messiest outcome would be if this group won?
Yeah, I mean, once once all the pairs were determined, I did feel like John V and Ymir did have an edge just because in knowing them, they know how to lock in, and you saw that. Whereas, like you said, John V was already composed. John V went into like tunnel mode, and Ymir was like, "Let's go." But what I like when I saw that Bex and Alex were together, I was like, I think that like if they pulled this out, it was gonna be nuts because like Bex would have had some power and been like, all right, I'm gonna fuck some shit up. And then Alex would have been safe. And then it's like, and then Ymir has the idol. And it's like, and I don't think at this point in the game, like I don't think Nathan would have been target one. Like if like Bex and Alex had won. I don't think people are like, oh, well, it's obviously Nathan. I think it would have been, so I was secretly rooting for Bex and Alex to win. Just because I knew it would have made the most chaos. But also when they did win, I was like, oh, this is really good for storyline because Ymir, super strong day one. And we already talked about it. Starting to unravel day two, now wins immunity. So he's going like this, which I think is interesting. And then also like there's this cloud over the game of like, John V's going to win. Like John V just shows up and he's automatically going to win this like storyline that's been kind of going on since the merge. And now he wins immunity. And I'm like, oh, but now they both share that. So it's not like, oh, it's one person running the game. Now their threat levels just rose, which I think is also interesting as well.
And so you give them the option of picking a duo to go with them, and they pick the duo that just lost. Fine, whatever. That's it. It's all good. This summit, a lot of things come out that become the storyline of the second part of the episode. One,
it was great.
We are still trying to figure out who voted where last episode. Every time it seems like Troy's going to absolutely 100% get clocked as that Ymir vote. It's like, oh, well, it's either Troy or this person. And that continues all the way to the end of the strategy talk. I don't think we get out of this episode with people knowing full well that Troy voted for Ymir. And he doesn't try to overcompensate. He just kind of says, yeah, I did this. Yep. And then they just kind of move on. But at the summit, the other thing that's talked about, and we've talked about this a lot over the last few weeks, is the Brooke Bex thing. And I think Ymir phrased it the best, and I do agree with them. And Santi, I want to get your thoughts on this because you have been very adamant about this the last few weeks. Ymir, they kept saying the girls are girls, and Ymir goes, yeah, I don't really care if it's the girls or not. They are a duo that we need to get rid of because they're a voting block of two, and this is the reasoning. This is the reasoning behind that. And I would be willing to say that a lot of the people that are not just Ymir probably think the same way. It's just very easy to say the girls because that's how I'm watching. At this point, this is how I'm seeing it. They are a tight duo. I don't really care that they're the girls, they're the women, they're the whatever. But it sucks that the phrasing coming out, it just makes it seem like, oh yeah, we're going after them because of this. When in reality, it doesn't really seem like that. This feels like we have to get rid of a clear duo that we have made into a duo, to be fair.
Thank you. Thank you.
I found my notes. I'm so excited.
Yeah, but that is where we are at this point. So Ymir, once again, being the voice of reason among his spiral. Santi, what did you think about that? And what did you think about the summit as a whole?
Okay, I found my notes. I'm excited about that because I forgot I was live texting Will when I watched it.
Okay.
Ymir had a funny give me the key moment whenever he won the idol. He was like, give me the key. Everybody a big brother.
Wait, hold on. Let me tell you, I did not expect him to do that. And I am not a strong man by any means. And that man, and Ymir is solid muscle. That man jumped in my arms like he was at war for years and we were reunited lovers. And that man jumped in my arms and I was like, and I'm on camera. I was like, if I drop this man, it's a wrap. So let me tell you, I found the strength, like where the baby's like trapped into the car and the mom gets the strength and she can flip the car with the adrenaline. I said, yes. I need it to look good. Because if I drop this man, it's a wrap and the moment's done. So let me tell you, he jumped in my arms and I was like, all right, we're gonna do it. But it was also a really good, funny moment that I was not expecting, but I was ready. If you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready.
Yeah, that's true too. I don't know which one of the two we heard, but they were like, yeah, we ate earlier, we don't have to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Santi.
Yeah, that was like that. I think that was like Bex and Brooke both kind of said that. They're like,
Okay.
listen, we ate, like it's good. But it's like, okay, but fuck your teammate, but okay, whatever.
So, okay, I had a lot of thoughts on, I called it the brochacho lunch. 1. And 2, this is what I love again about Survivor is we are all as players trying to create a world in which we are the winner of the game, right? So John B, and I still don't fully grasp his strategy of let's go to Brooke and say, Brooke, we are voting Bex out. And if Brooke agrees, then that's gonna prove to us that Brooke is not loyal, so we should vote Brooke out. But if Brooke stands 10 toes down for Bex and says, I'm not doing that, then that means those women are not going to break up from each other and we need to vote them out. So it's essentially trapped Brooke and Bex into this strategy of we're either fucked or we're not, in the sense of these guys aren't going to give us any like wiggle room. So I was really confused by John's plan with that. I also was confused by Amir's kind of like flip from 2 episodes ago of like, oh, we have like these unconscious bias towards like women and like sex and all this stuff. And then now he's like, no, they've got to go. We got to get rid of one of them.
Well, and so that's
I have a comment.
Okay, yeah.
No, I was saying, I think what John was trying to do was, well, this is what he was. He knew the girls were tight, but he was also tight with the girls. So obviously, as you know, Survivor players, John's already experienced, 8-7-6 is like the turning point in the game. And how I interpreted it was John knew that the girls were tight and he was tight, but he wasn't sure if he was 1, 2, or 3. So him throwing Brooke out was, and you see it in the later confessionals, like he was done with Brooke because he knew if I get rid of Brooke, Bex is guaranteed for sure 10 toes down, my number 1. Because if we get rid of Brooke, but with Brooke there, I don't know which way Bex is going to go, right? She has 2 paths. But if I get rid of Brooke, I definitely know Bex is with me. So I think that's kind of what he was trying to do. And like you said, he basically trapped Brooke. Brooke was fucked either way. But I think he purposely did that because he knew he was never going to get rid of Bex. And he said that. They sat down at the reward and it was like, yeah, so we're not voting Bex. And I'm not really willing to talk about that. That's what's happening. And they were like, okay. And they moved on, Yeah.
And so just kind of going back to, and I think it's a phrasing thing, because any other situation, let's say it's me and Santi out there and we've been doing the exact same thing that Bex and Brooke have been doing, but we haven't been lumped together for other reasons, then in that situation it wouldn't look to an audience member as if it's this inherent bias, because they have been lumped together. And now at a situation where it is very smart to potentially break up the 2 of them, because we are heading into a round where their 2 votes are already half of what's up. Oh God.
I just got sent a text message.
Okay. Or their 2 votes are half of the majority. You got to start at least looking at that avenue. No, yeah, don't say the girls, but at the end of the day, it is yes. These 2 that should at least be on the table. Now, what we're going to see happen anyway is they're able to get out of it once again, which is a testament to how they have been playing the game. But on the other end, it's going to rustle some feathers moving forward. And we'll get to that right now, because we get to the strategy point of the episode and we get this very fun moment with Amir, Bex, and Brooke. Where Brooke is Brooke is not having any of Amir, and Amir's staying fairly composed in person. And this is not the first time in the episode that we've heard that Brooke holds grudges towards individuals in the game. But now we're learning that Amir also holds a lot of grudges towards individuals in the game, because we immediately get a confessional about, I don't know where she's from, but like, I don't appreciate being talked to like that. She's a very pretty lady, so she's probably used to people like falling to their knees for her and everything. I thought it was a very funny segment between the three of them, among a bunch of very fun segments. Santi, what did you think of this specific interaction?
Again, it goes back to what I was saying about like how Ymir just switched. Like 2 episodes ago, he was team women, and this time he's like, no, like Brooke's entitled. Da, 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 da. It's the game is so funny because like I don't think any views in Ymir's mind have really changed. It's just how the game is playing out and how he's reacting.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting because, and I'm not saying that biases, but it's just, I when I was editing this, or when Bex was editing this, and we were looking over it, I'm like, I'm getting so many shades of Cagayan and Cass, right? So Brooke was very direct, which works really great with certain things and not certain things. But then I almost would be interested to see if Brooke was now Brad and was being direct, would the comments that some of the people have been making be like, what, like if let's say it's Brad and being like, oh, you're going to vote for me, so why is that? I don't understand that. What did I do to you? Are people going to call Brad entitled? Or would they just say, wow, he's just so direct? You know what I mean? It's really interesting in that. Same thing with even the current season, 49, and Savannah went right to Christina and it's like, all right, so who you're voting for? If we want to work together, then tell me who you're voting for. Let's go. And Christina was like, oh my gosh, wait. And I'm like, why is it a big deal when a woman is assertive? Like, why is it a moment? Like, why is this the moment of the episode? But I think that's what's fascinating about Survivor, It
forces us to face what would you do in this situation with this bias that you don't even think you have come out in this situation, And
I think what's also, sorry, God.
No, go ahead, Will.
No, I was like, what's also really interesting about this group, especially this vote, but you've seen it kind of throughout the season, is like, Survivor's about lying and all this, but like, we have lying in Stranded season 1, very obviously, but then what I noticed is these players were very direct, like throughout most of the season, like at Final 8, and Ymir's literally saying, yeah, I'm probably voting you because I don't have a name. Wild work, usually in the game of Survivor. Like, you don't tell the target they're going home right to their face, like in front of their number one ally, too, mind you. Like, and then John's at the reward being like, oh yeah, we can target Brooke. I'm totally fine with that. Let's do that. Like that's what it was so fascinating, is how upfront a lot of people were. And then on the opposite side, there were like Steven and George like, yeah, we'll definitely flip with Breen and we'll make it 5-3 and get Brooke out. And then obviously it was a fucking lie. It was so fascinating.
We should bring in other end. I was going to say we should bring in our elimination.
I was just trying to use that as a segue. So on the other end of everyone knowing who's going to catch votes at Tribal, we get to our boot of the episode. We're going to bring in Alex now to discuss the strategy session from his point of view. Alex, it's terrible to see you here, but also thank you for joining us. First off, based off of the fallout from last episode, from last Tribal, in real time, where were you at? Because I'm going to talk about your one confessional in a second, but like, where are we before we get to immunity? Where are you at?
Oh my God. So I was going to say, you guys missed my boot episode. It was last episode from my perspective. Like the whole time I'm sitting there and all I've heard is, I felt like I had a really good social read going into the merge. I knew I was going to be the target. I was happy that we got the Dave vote off. I get the idol and I'm like, here we go. This is my game. And the moment, it's not even Will being, we're going straight to Tribal. It was, I think maybe Tony or somebody yells, no talking. I don't know, like on the walk to Tribal. And if you watch that video back, I'm literally like scooting over to John S to talk to him and I get no talking. And from that point on, this game is just a disaster show for me. I mean, it's horrible. And so I feel like one of the interesting things about Stranded, it's like kind of how people talk about COVID and like time feeling not real. I feel like there were Tribals and Stranded where I felt like I sat there for 48 hours doing Kumbaya, Boston Rob, nobody talk. And then there were like entire afternoons where I was just like, what happened? There is no time. And some of what I think you see in the strategy of this episode is people sort of decompressing or realizing things that, like, if this was more of a normal tribal schedule, they might have realized a round or two ago. And so, like, it's kind of wild for me to see like the summit or like Amir talk to Bex, and he's like, oh yeah, Alex and Nathan have been with me. I really want to use that. Let's do something. Meanwhile, I've been like, Amir's been a disaster. I don't know why I've worked so hard to like keep him in this game. I am done with him. And that's two people like just on different timelines, right? Like at that point, I was just like, So when I went into the challenge, I was thinking of a couple things. I was like, how do I get my threat level down here? Is this recoverable, or will I always be a name? And I didn't think I was always going to be a name. And the reason was, I thought part of the reason that I was such a convenient scapegoat right at the merge for a name is because I was one of the people with no pre-existing connections. So I was a very safe name to float in big groups, right? Because everybody had somebody on the other tribe except for me. And if you're talking in a group of 5, a group of 4, it's a lot easier if I'm not there to say my name than it is to say a random name of somebody who has a connection, who might have somebody be like, I don't like that. And I sort of anticipated that, thought that was going to happen. I also, I didn't think that I was as big of a challenge threat as people were making me out to be. And I thought it was a very convenient choice. Like, I thought touchy subjects was just a bunch of good players trying to put a target on someone's back who was convenient. I didn't think anyone believed that I was most likely to win. And so I sort of thought this is a like strategic moment that is a group consensus. If I play an idol, if I can get out of this, like, I don't think that's going to hold, or that stink will follow me the rest of the game. So I was like, do I want to win this immunity? Do I need it? I probably need it, but I need to also make connections with people that I haven't. When Will was like, pair up, I didn't know, 50-50. I was like, well, and you, I think you were saying, it felt like it took forever. It felt longer to me. I mean, the moment of pausing between pair up and actually doing that challenge was definitely longer than going to tribal. That's for sure. The round before. So I did think, like, part of me was like, I have been told that I am this challenge beast that is threatening, and yet here I am saying nothing and no one wants to work with me. And I thought that was really interesting. Part of me wanted to stand back and be like, is there anybody who is saying I'm a challenge beast that wants to pair up and try to take on this challenge together? And it didn't feel like it was going to happen, at least in a big group situation. So then I was like, I'm going to flip the coin and go with Bex, because one, I need to talk to her. We had a good like life talk before that, but absolutely no strategy talk. And two, if it is a real head-to-head, I think maybe that's somebody I can beat depending on whatever the challenge is. Let's just see. And honestly, a lot of credit to Bex, because I think if I were in her situation at that challenge, I'd probably just throw it. I mean, like, I don't need me, and it's hot and we haven't eaten all day. And I do think she really tried there. But, you know, all respect to John B and Amir. They were a force.
Yeah. And so with all of that being said, I want to get to the confessional, probably my favorite confessional of the episode, with you sitting with all the stuff, just kind of saying, yeah, no one's talking to me. And so the way, and because of the camera cutting to everyone, because as you're watching it, as I zoom in on you, I'm thinking that you were like isolated enough because of how loud you were talking that you could get away with it. In reality, everyone is just kind of standing right around you. Yeah. Did anyone come to you after you, because of how loud you said, did anyone come to you right after, or was it still a while before, or did you have to butt into a conversation?
For basically 2 rounds, the only person who initiated a conversation with me was Amir. That's it. That whole game, which I think really shows you what a bad place I was in. And I had done a little bit of the like inserting myself in the conversations. I had the like really good strategic talk with Steven that probably saved me on the Dave vote. I had really good one-on-ones, but I was having to like grab people. And I was really nervous about the perception of breaking into groups and grabbing people and keeping that threat level high. And I guess at that point, I was essentially saying, I can scramble really hard. I know I can turn some heads, but I think if I do it, I'm doomed. Like there's no way I'm getting past 6 in the best case scenario. I think if I really show my belly, there's a chance here that I can win this game. And I would rather have a 15% chance of winning the game and an 85% chance of going home the next day or the next vote than a like 60% chance of surviving a vote and a 0% chance of winning the game. And that's sort of where I was. It sucks. It's not very fun. Like I just, you go to play Survivor to do cool moves and to talk to people and turn heads and spin plates. But once your threat level's out there, you've kind of blown up your spot. And so I really did feel like I had to let the chaos happen. Because, sorry, I'm talking a lot, but
Oh God, no!
No, this is your moment.
it was like a Cold War, right? It was, oh, when this happens, then things are going to really shake up. And for a variety of reasons, I think Troy had a really great confessional about kind of like the voting blocks never really aligning. Like we just kept sort of going down this track of purple green and no one believed it, but no one was doing anything else, right? And so we just kept waiting for like these bigger dramas, things bubbling under the surface to unfold. But because of the timing and because these voting blocks never really were quite aligned, we got a little bit further into the game than certainly I expected without some of these big things coming to head. And so I was like, just get through this, lay low. When something pops off, it's going to break open this game and you'll be able to exploit it. Didn't happen. Ran out of road.
See, it's funny you mentioned that. I think why that was, and it was because, and it really started in episode 3 with the disc flip challenge. And like you went a few times, and it was like now that storyline of wow, Alex is a challenge beast. And then like you and just echo what you said, like, how do we get to final 8? And it's been kind of like not that shaken up. And I think people were afraid to shake it up because they didn't want to become the new Alex. I think that's really what it was. I could be wrong, but that's kind of the vibe I've gotten. It's like, well, if I try to, right? Because like everyone was like, you know, Troy and Steven were this close to flipping, and then they were like, never mind. And I was like, oh, it's off the table. That's it.
Yeah.
No one wanted it. It's like, yeah.
Troy basically told me that to my face in the game. I mean, I gave him a real pitch that I think he really considered about like where I thought I stood in this game, why I needed him and he didn't need me, but it would be really beneficial. And he pretty much was just like, you're a challenge beast. I think this game states benefits me. And at the time, I was skeptical of that. I didn't really see it for him. But now I kind of get why people on Purple were acting that way because they knew more about the Purple tribe dynamics. And I think he was probably right.
I want to talk about this. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Nathan. It might have been someone basically says, oh, I tried to help Alex and say, hey, lower your threat level, and it was too little too late or something. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Who said that? No.
Well, I mean, I think someone did say like, well, he needed to lower his threat level too little too late. I'm like, but there literally was nothing. Like, like touchy subjects, big whoop. The rock challenge, Alex, I think was like 3rd or 4th out. Yeah. And then this challenge, he was 1st out with Bex. So like, that's what I'm saying. I hope it came through in the edit, like Alex's frustration of being like, everyone's saying my challenge beast, tell me what I've done on day 2 to do that.
Yeah.
Literally nothing.
And so even the challenge that we had, the flipping that I showed off in, like people came away from that and were talking about me being some sort of physical threat. And I was just like, I just followed someone. That was like a really simple strategic decision. I thought that was going to be like super intuitive to everyone. And then I win like 19-1 and Steven's like, oh, you kicked my ass. Like, this is terrible. And I'm like, I just feel like that was just like a choice. Like we just played tic-tac-toe and I decided to line up 3. That wasn't hard.
I've been doing this shit since I was 3 years old. Like, it's kind of hard to not.
And you know, like I get that some things come quicker to some people, and it's also very much in people's benefit to be like, whoa, look at that guy, right? So like I put myself out there, huge mistake, should not have done it. But in the moment, I just thought, oh, everyone's going to obviously know you just followed the other person. and then they didn't, what I did was immediately try to be like, oh shit, I gave the immunity to Nathan. I sat out the next challenge. Like, I was aware of this. I just couldn't get it off me.
Santi, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, it was what I was mentioning earlier about this like funny dichotomy of Survivor. Of everyone's building a world in which they're the winner. And so they all decided that the big bad villain to get rid of was Alex, who, not to say you weren't a challenge beast, but like you weren't as formidable as that they were making you out to be.
I was intentionally trying not to be good at challenges.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then he might be a challenge beast then if he still won. No, but I think it was Bex a couple of weeks ago that said, either John or Imir or both were basically built like brick shit houses, and how are people not looking at them as the challenge beasts and looking at Alex, who's not built like a brick shit house.
I was watching me run to that rock, and I was cringing. You can see the jiggle. Like, I don't get it, but
well, it's funny. So Bex actually just commented, and this is something that she mentioned when she did the reward with Steven and Brooke, which was, they did circle time in the morning of day 2, and Alex showed that he's like super likable, and that just added to the attributes. So it's like, okay, he's a challenge beast. Oh, and he's nice, and he knows how to talk to people. Like, oh boy. So basically, it sounds like Alex needed to be an absolute dick to everybody, and he probably could have stayed. I'm being annoying, but yeah.
Well, and the fact that so your threat level, in reality, your threat level had more to do with those aspects of the game. And I guess it doesn't ultimately matter how you are being painted as far as a threat, because you are still a threat. But it's just weird at the fact that they were using the physical aspect where they could have easily just done social strategic. Now, where I would also go off of that is there are also a lot of social strategic people left in the game, and they don't want everyone to kind of open their eyes to the fact that, like, hey, Alex isn't the only one that's like super likable and actually knows kind of what's going on. We're also that. So let's just say that he's this and just kind of hope that you stop paying attention to us.
Yeah, no, I think it was a convenient thing to do that got out somebody who I think was, I think I'm pretty well-rounded. I think that they were like, it benefits me to get rid of this person, and it doesn't ruffle an extreme amount of feathers. Whereas if I make a move right now, it might be too soon to me. And I think people like Bex, like Troy, like some of the other people, like they had a pulse on that, or they were anticipating kind of when Purple was going to really spat and fight it out. And they just didn't need me for that.
Well, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they were kind of onto something, because didn't you just recently win an LRG?
I did, yeah. Actually, so Stranded is the worst I've ever done in an LRG. I've gotten 6 twice, and I just won Survivor DC season 14. So I say they were on to I'd get rid of me. They were right. Like, all love to them. Good players.
Well, Alex, if you could go into that just for a second, because we talked a lot prior to your DC season, and you came to me during production on 13, and you were like, all right, well, give me the breakdown, because you've seen more of my game than anybody, and I'm trying to win this next season. So what did you, I guess, get from our conversation that got you the win?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I played Stranded, I was new to LRGs, but this was the 3rd one I had played in about 2 months. So I played my first one, which was Survivor Rock Creek Park, and I was like, this is the greatest thing you can do. I'm doing all of these. And Will called me, I think, 48 hours before Stranded was supposed to film. And I borrowed a friend's car and drove to a part of New Jersey I'd never been a part of, like got out, didn't know any, and was just like fresh off of all of this being new. But because I had just played 2 others, I was basically trying to use Stranded as an experiment to figure out how I could tweak my game to like finally get a win, right? And so I think I had the right idea coming in, but I had no idea how to calibrate. And so in Stranded, and I think you see me talk about this in some of the confessionals, I'm trying to be like very Midwestern likable. I say the word like an extreme amount of times, right? And I'm trying to like be very, very nice. I was trying to not be a social threat. I was also trying to keep the challenge threat down, though it didn't work at all. And what I learned was especially among players who really play LRGs, and I think this is true of Survivor, CBS, and others, social threats just aren't clocked the same way as other threats. People who talk a lot, as long as they're likable, they're never going to have people be like, oh God, that's so scary, until it's too late, because you're talking to them and you like them. Like, that's the whole part of being a social threat. And I think I was deliberately crimping my social game because in my world, I'm a lobbyist. I'm around a lot of politicians, and most people I know are wary of good talkers. We're just like, yeah, okay, right? But I think that in the real world, that is not true. Like, we get fooled by charismatic people all of the time, and it's a real bias that you have to like deliberately peer into. So I was trying to be very behind the scenes socially, and be strategic, and then keep the threat level down, and go and submerge and make my move. It did not work, because what happens is you just have less autonomy over your relationships. And so you see me sort of get painted into a corner where I'm relying on Amir, who I've already been like, this person is too chaotic to be a super useful ally right now, and Nathan, who I had banked all of my money on at the last tribal to go tell John S. to vote for John B. I went to Nathan. I was like, what name do you want? He tells me to vote John B. I'm like, that makes sense for both of our games. The one conversation you need to have right now is talk to John S. and tell him this. And if we get 3 votes, that's going to be enough. We are clear. And I'm going to do everything I can to attract every stray vote so that 3 votes is enough. Felt like I played my part well. And then I find out that like John S. doesn't even know that John B's name is out there. And I just wanted to throw things. Like, I was just like, well, those are my 2 relationships. Great. Like, I'm dead in the water. So after that experience, I didn't play LRGs for about a year. And I talked to Will, and I went in and just started to make a checklist based off of Stranded. And I was like, there's never too many conversations to have. Like, don't worry about being a social threat. Just have the conversation. Don't go out with regrets. Second thing is, you're not going to win a challenge no matter what until Final 7. Unless you think you are going home, like, you do not win a challenge before Final 7. And I didn't let myself do it, like, through beanbags, crazy places, whatever. Just intentional sabotage. And the other thing that I thought a lot about was using cross-tribal relationships better. In this game, and I think you see that, in our confessionals a lot, I was like exhibit A of talking about the theoretical swap in our confessionals. And I was just such a ripe target for Will's dastardly production ways, because I was really concerned about a swap having had no pregame relationships, right? So I was thinking, let's not ruffle feathers. Let's be kumbaya. Let's make sure that whatever the permutation of swap is, that I'm going to have a way in. And I felt I played a great game for a mechanic that did not exist. And so when I played Survivor DC, I wanted to go on journeys to form cross-tribal relationships. I wanted to take time talking to the other tribe, and I didn't care if that put a target on my back. Stranded, I am so scared of talking to the other tribe to get a target on my back that I truly did not know Brooke's name at that like challenge, like halfway through day 1. It's embarrassing, right? But like, it was intentional. Like, I was trying to look like I'm not a social threat. No one cares. No one cares if you're not a social threat. It just means you have less agency. So yeah.
I'm going to quickly try to get to tribal here. So we get there, and obviously everyone kind of knows that it's you or Brooke. Everyone has basically said it's you or Brooke to both of you. Did you think there was any way out here? Or did you, because I know you said you weren't blindsided, and I do believe that, but did you think in the back of your head, maybe the blind side is I stay? Did you think there was a way that you could have pulled in 1 or 2 more?
I think that if I could do it over again, I would have a shot. I think that the way I played it, though it made sense to me at the time, I was pretty convinced it was me. Because I think, the individual conversations a little bit before tribal a lot of scrambling. I was like, this is good. We've got good players who are really considering the future of the game. At that point, I really did think like I'm a free agent, good chess piece. Someone's going to pick me up and use me. They're not dumb. But then there was kind of a massive huddle over by the giant purple urinal. And Brooke was in it and I wasn't. And I wish that I would have just gone in and blow it up. And I was still concerned about like, I got to play dead. I can't do this. But I just think that ultimately I still made it a little bit too easy.
Okay.
And I walked into tribal being like 90% chance it's me.
So even when it was 3-3, did you think?
I was shocked I got 3 votes. I was like, this is more votes than I thought I was going to get.
I have a question, Alex, because obviously we give you guys 30 minutes for strategy, and like, you know, we say, oh, you thought it was obviously you. So then why the hell did it turn into a live tribal? Why do you think? Like, or maybe you know because you talked to like previous people, but like it seemed so obvious, but yet everyone still got up and it was a whole moment.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that is super unique about specifically this game is how little trust was established so late into the game. And I think the reason for that is on both the purple and green tribes and like early merge votes, there are so many votes that avoided line drawing exercises. Like we would just get together and we'd absolutely blindside the hell out of somebody and have it be an almost unanimous vote. And you know, Amir would throw a hinky vote, but like whatever. It was like very, very much just like someone gets plucked. And that is amazing if you're trying to like preserve all of your options. It is terrible to be like, this person is my ride or die. And so I think that what we had was a norm of being like, oh no, there's a bunch of good players. Something's going to happen. There's a lot of paranoia because nobody had the exact like 2 to 3 people that they are riding to the end with and they know have their back. And I think that's a reason that you never saw up until at least this episode, a real cohesive voting block form that was going to like run the game. And it's why you never saw the like, you saw like, you know, your little couplets, right? Amir and John V, or a little bit of like Troy and Nathan from the Mole, Ohio. You or me and Steven, you saw little link ups, but you never saw like, this is the actual voting block alliance that can do something here. And without that, everything feels so scary.
Yeah. It like I said at the beginning of this, or when you joined us, it sucks when you go, but like you mentioned, it kind of seemed like you were almost dead in the water after the last one.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, there was a chance you could bounce back in this, and ultimately it doesn't go that way. And before we get to your final words on your experience with the game, I want to quickly touch on with Santi and Will here, Nathan and Amir's voting words, and what that, I know it's not said directly to Brooke, but the fallout is probably going to be felt going into next episode because the vote didn't go that way. And it definitely seemed like Nathan for sure thought she was going.
Yeah.
Santi, what's up? What do you think? What do you see happening next time? With now it looks like Amir and Nathan versus Brooke, and Brooke maybe versus whoever.
Yeah, I think the way kind of I see it playing out right now is you have a Brooke Bex, John V, Steven foursome with Troy at 5. And then you have Nathan and Amir at 6 and 7 in whatever order. That's kind of how I see this shaking down.
So you think that it could just end up being 5-2 next week potentially?
Yeah, like I think this goes back to what I said earlier in the podcast about like Nathan's living in his own narrative that's not really existing in what has happening in reality. And I think, Alex, when John was here last week, like Nathan said something to him, but he never confirmed what the actual name was. So whenever we do get Nathan on at some point, we can figure out what exactly happened.
You grill that boy, please.
Yes.
Well, Alex, ultimately, what was your experience like with Stranded? And what can you throw out to people that might be trying to apply for future seasons?
Oh, it's amazing. A couple things spring to mind. One, I think it's the LRG that taught me you're not just playing other players, you're also playing the environment. Like every game is unique, and part of being a good, player in these games is trying to realize, okay, this is where production is really going to like subvert expectations, or you can't bank on, reading the game format to like lay all these chess pieces. But on a way more human level, I think this rocks. It's an incredible experience. You get such a caring production cast that really loves these games, and they do so much to update players and like let them know things that were going on. And so even though you're going through this like anxiety inducing roller coaster, by the time you get off the ride, you just have that like euphoria of, oh, I just rode through that thing. And I think people have that kind of regardless of where they got thrown out of the roller coaster, or how badly they were blindsided. It's a really cool thing to be able to show up and have an experience with a bunch of strangers, and then have like something very, very emotionally poignant in common with them. And I just think it's something that people should do and put themselves out there and try, because it's a growth experience.
Alex, thank you so much, man. That was shit. That was
I couldn't talk about LRG better than that.
Yeah.
Santi, final thoughts on the episode.
It was great. It was amazing. It was an hour and a half, but it did not feel like it at all. And I cannot wait until episode 9 and see what happens next. We're at episode 9, right? Yes, episode 9. You made a weird face, Coach. I was like, it says 8 right there.
9. I thought this was episode 9. That's my fault.
Yeah. So yeah,
Will?
I think
Wait, I had to ask Alex, how did you get Counselor of Ponderosa?
Oh yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, so John and Dave had decided that everybody gets titles, and so when I got booted, I had to, it's Survivor tradition to let them all know that you're a secret lawyer and you've been lying the whole time. So I did, and so they went, okay, well, there's our counselor. We got a lawyer. You're in for Ponderosa. So I tried to draw up a contract and seize the pool for us. We got licensed to use it, but didn't get any sort of formal thing through. My bad, guys.
Oh, and I wanted to ask you this. I also wanted to ask you this, Alex, as we wrap up, because I didn't get a chance to ask John this. What is the vibe now that you're in the jury? Obviously, don't spoil anything about who's coming next or whatever, because like, okay, it's one. If it's 2 people, okay, it's just buddies, right? But now you enter the fray. What was the vibe like, kind of when you kind of got to jury and started talking to them? What was that like?
I think it was a general sense of being mystified by certain people's games. We were like, something does not add up here. And some of it was chaos with Ymir. Some of it was communication breakdown with Nathan. But some of it was also, now there are 3 people from Baka Lakaka who are sitting in a pool being like, what does Steven think about this game? Like, why was he so comfortable fighting for me and then not, right? Or what does Troy know about these voting boxes? Because, and one thing that I think was true of all 3 of us is we had sort of had conversations where, person number 1 on purple was like, yes, these 2 are my ride or die. And then we talked to one of the people they mentioned, and they went, no, these 2 people. And then you like followed the trail and they'd be like, no, these 2 people. And it sort of felt like a weird circular firing squad. And at this point, we were sort of like, is the game playing the players, or are the players playing the game? Like, who actually has an understanding of all the social dynamics here and is going to use it? And so I think that's what people were looking for.
Nice. So I have to ask you two, Santi and Shiro, now that the game is, the game's moving on, who do you think has the best win equity, kind of, as we start to kind of, there's only 7 people left, so we're getting into the pointy end of the game here. Like, who are your 1 or 2 top prospects after seeing this episode? Like, because we talked about it last episode, but like, does it change now seeing what happened this one?
I feel that the only way Bex or Brooke win is if they take each other. Because if you have like a Brooke in a Troy, the jury's going to be bitter that Brooke was entitled or whatever feelings they have about how Brooke shows her opinion. They're going to vote for Troy. If you have like a Bex and John V, they're going to vote for John V. Like, I feel like that's kind of where I want to see the end game go. And I've been saying that for a while. I would like to see a Troy win. But yeah, I'm going to root for the women.
I think based off of what we've been seeing, I think that Bex or John are probably at the top right now. My who I want to win is different. But Bex and John, based off of what I've seen so far, with Bex, because she has been basically shoehorned into this duo for the longest time and is still surviving these votes. In fact, didn't catch a vote this episode. John, because everyone has basically proclaimed him to be the winner now, that if the proclaimed winner makes it to the end, then it's like, yeah, this is all on you. You guys are the ones that made this narrative up. So I would say the two of them right now, I wouldn't be shocked at anybody left in the game winning. And I think I'm telling the truth. Yeah, I was went through the head. Yeah, there's nobody left that I have to make sure that I was counting 7. Yeah, but I don't think there's anyone that if they were to win that I'd sit there and be like, oh, that's interesting. And I think that's a testament.
Do you want me to? I want to just to tease the next episode. I'm going to say 3 quotes that are said in the episode, and that's all I'm going to leave it at for episode 9. 3 quotes I'm going to give you are: stop screaming at me. 2, everything out of your mouth is a fucking lie. And 2, you're both being very aggressive. And that's what I'll say about episode 9.
Are any of those going to be the episode title? Are any of them going to be the episode title?
Possibly. I'm still we're still
three, girl, all 3.
Yeah.
Just release 3 different
I gotta dig in a little bit. I gotta dig in a little bit more, but it's probably gonna be somewhat in there.
Okay. Well,
but just to let you know where it's going.
Thank you all for continuing to tune in. We're almost there. We're at Final 7. There's a lot. I mean, especially based off the quotes that we're going to be getting next episode, there's a lot that needs to be dealt with. Hopefully it's dealt with in a fine way, whatever that might mean. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. It was great getting to hear your perspective on everything, especially the last 2 rounds. Congrats again on the win. And we'll be back next time.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.